last. I'd begun to think this wood had no end.
And I thought bandits knew their way round a wood.
We do. Around those not brimming with elves armed to teeth.
The burning fields and orchards spewed thick black smoke, turning day into darkest night. Riding in the middle of her caravan, Meve could see neither its head nor its rear. Reynard ordered the men to keep formation and march in silence.
Eyes open, fore and aft. The foe might well use these conditions to spring a trap.
When a scout's shrill horn cut through the silence, Meve immediately galloped to the front of the column. She found herself in a pile of red-hot coals that had once been peasants' huts.
What the devil happened here?
Bodies lay amid the ashes, barefoot men in nightshirts as if caught in their sleep. Meve deemed them yet more victims of the black-clad invaders. But Gascon had another interpretation.
Look at the arrows. Imperial issue. Not hardly. Nor are they the type the Scoia'tael favour. And the tracks in the mud, the attackers fought not in formation, but man to man. Bandits. It must have been.
Reynard, standing next to him, nodded in agreement.
Gascon can be relied on here. After all, he knows of what he speaks.
An uncomfortable silence fell over the group, ending only when Meve ordered the scouts to determine the direction of the bandits' tracks. They returned to report the killers were hiding somewhere to the north. The scouts reported the bandits who attacked the village that night now occupied a fort the Adernians had hastily abandoned during their retreat.
They'll have crossbows, arbalists, ballistae. The bandits are armed to the teeth.
What's more, according to the local folk, they had a witch among them. In light of these reports, Meve's advisors debated whether it was worth risking a fight with the brigands.
Let's call it as it is.
Gascon said.
The game's not worth the candle.
Game?
Rayla said, struggling to swallow her anger.
They slaughtered an entire village. We cannot let them get away.
The stage seemed set for a long debate, when Meve pounded her fist on the table.
I am a queen, for God's sakes. I shall not cower before common rogues, even if the entire conclave of mages stands with them. Reynard, have the men prepare their arms.
Reynard saluted and left the tent. If one had seen him then, he would have sworn the grizzled soldier smiled to himself, beaming with pride in his ruler.
Surrender while you can! Did you hear that? A kind of incantation.
Something's not right. They should be dead with those wounds. The fort is ours, Your Grace.
They battled long and hard to take the fort. Meve could have sworn she saw bandits stalking its ramparts. Bandits who moments before had taken a bolt to the head. By all rights, a mortal wound.
What the devil is going on here?
She swore as she took cover behind her shield. The secret was unraveled only after the battle's conclusion. Meve's soldiers dragged before her a grey-haired woman in colored robes. The aura radiating from her left no doubt. They had fought a sorceress. It was her healing spells that enabled the bandits to hold off their attack for so long.
What is your name, sorceress?
Ispel of Tretagor.
I take it you did not keep company with bandits willingly.
Not at all. They kidnapped me and forced me to aid them.
Forced? I do not understand. As a woman fluent in the arcana of magic, you could have freed yourself with little effort.
True, I could have. But I would have had to kill, and I swore never to use my talents to harm another.
Not even in self-defense?
Not even then.
Then you live in truly unfortunate times. War rages all around. You cannot hide from it.
So be it. Then I must entrust myself to the care of the gods.
Or a passing queen.
You stand before Meve, by divine right ruler of Lyria and Rivia. We seek the lord of these lands, Demavend.
Oh, forgive me for not recognizing you, Your Grace. You do not look like a ruler. More like a mercenary.
True, I wear no crown. It was stolen from me along with my country. I strive to reclaim what was taken, and admit the help of a sorceress would prove useful.
Thank you, my lady. But you must know, an army is no place for me.
Should you wish it not, you needn't fight. We have many civilians among our ranks
who do their part in the slaughter. Indirect guilt is enough.
My soldiers do not slaughter. They fight.
Lofty words, but the result is the same. Piles of corpses.
Well, a bandit I am not. I shall not force you. Reynard, prepare the men to march on.
Of course, but if I may, perhaps Xavier might have a look at the war machines we captured. He may find some parts of use.
Niamh followed Reynard's suggestion. Xavier went to work.
Yes, Your Grace.
Gods, what happened to him?
He was in Rosberg when the stronghold fell. Nearly burned alive.
How are you healing him?
The medics recommended regular poultices of dog's tallow, but whether they've any effect...
Of course they've no effect. For such wounds. How he must suffer.
In the day he reveals nothing. But at night one awakes to hear him sob with pain. You see? I need healers.
I shall go with you. But never shall I use magic to take a life. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, you have put it quite plain, and rather bluntly.
Forgive me, Your Grace. It has been long since I played the host. I forget the custom.
Your spells mean more to me than your manners. Welcome to our ranks, Isbel.
Isbel sat in one of their wagons and shut her tired eyes. Her long grey hair seemed to flutter ever so slightly, though there was neither wind nor breeze.
The ruins still smoulder. Nilfgaard passed not long afore. They must be close.
No doubt they already knock at Aldersberg's gate. We must make haste.
Brave warriors. Fled so fast, didn't manage to pack.
Niamh shook her head in disbelief as she surveyed the landscape before her. The Nilfgaardians had destroyed everything in their path. Burned farms, trampled fields, leveled orchards.
The bastards.
She hissed.
They mean to cause a famine.
When the Lyrians reached Braithwaite, a small village near Aldersberg, they saw gaunt men and women, more bone than flesh, gnawing on acorns and boot leather. The invaders had requisitioned every scrap of the village's food stores and hauled it off to their nearby camp. In strained voices, the villagers begged the Queen to help them retrieve their supplies.
Milady, frost'll come before we know it. Felt help us. Why not a soul will live to see the thaw?
Niamh looked around at the blackened, scorched village, at the walking skeletons who dwelled in it. The suffocating smoke bellowing up from the fields sent tears streaming down her face.
I'll do what I can,
Was all she said. She knew this was not the time for a rousing speech. She needed to act. The Lyrians reached the outer defenses of the camp where the Nilfgaardians had taken Braithwaite's food stores. Rayla delivered her report.
3 heavy infantry regiments, Nazari arbalists,
The warrior said.
and I heard neighing, so they've cavalry as well.
Niamh said nothing, working it over in her head. The fate of the starving villagers weighed on her heart. But was it worth risking heavy losses to aid them?
The Nilfgaardians keep food in storage and watch it rot while peasants perish from hunger. Will we allow this?
The Queen said, addressing her soldiers. Cried the soldiers.
I didn't think so.
Niamh said with a smile as she drew her weapon.
Lyrians, attack! Today our swords shall taste imperial blood.
Your Grace, the battle's won. We've secured the storehouses.
Niamh managed to rout the Nilfgaardian troops and regain the stolen supplies. However, the Queen's good humor faded soon after the battle. Her soldiers began loudly demanding she not return to the village, but keep the food for her troops.
We've nigh empty bellies too, milady. Or whatever we give them, the black-clad bastards will just steal right back. Better to strengthen our own army than the enemy's.
Niamh heard the soldiers out. In her heart of hearts, she knew their arguments held much merit. But she only said,
I'd rather fight with a clean conscience than a full stomach.
The Queen's words ended all discussion. The soldiers loaded the food onto carts and made off towards Braithwaite. The villagers welcomed the soldiers with tears in their eyes. One fell to his knees before the Queen.
Oh, milady! You saved us from starvation, from turning one against the other, from eating horrid things. The gods bless ye 7 times over.
Meve smiled hearing these words, but sadness lingered in her eyes. If the gods truly did reward good deeds and punish crimes, there'd be lightning bolts pummeling the Nilfgaardians day and night. Meve's mount reared and flattened its ears, spooked for no visible cause. Trusting in animal instinct, Meve jumped to the ground and felt tremors under her boots. At first they were faint, barely palpable, then grew stronger and stronger.
What's going on?
Meve cried.
Why does the earth tremble?
Before anyone could respond, a scout from the forward guard let out a terrified cry. A moment later, snapped trees crashed down around them, and out of the woods came a 30-foot-tall stone giant.
Gods,
Whispered the Queen.
what is that?
A golem,
Isbel whispered back.
favorite servant of Nilfgaardian mages.
As if to confirm his words, soldiers marched out from behind the giant, clad in heavy black plate. Their leader, however, wore but a light tunic, and his hands glowed with a strange blue light.
Dithen Quan Illyrian!
He shouted, giving the order to attack.
Gloire en ad Feyin!
Mom, break the mage's spell, and the golem's power will wane to naught.
Adart!
The mage! Kill the mage!
Your Grace, it worked!
Raising her shield against the whistling rain of arrows, Meve fought her way towards the Nilfgaardian mage leading the attack. At close quarters, magic arcana would stand no chance against a well-swung blade. Meve roared, delivering a powerful blow. Her blade severed the mage's aorta, and drowning in his own blood, he fell to the ground. He choked out by way of last words. Then the blue aura coming from his hands flickered out, and the stone giant thundered to the ground in pieces. When the dust of the battle had settled, the Queen ordered her men to search the Nilfgaardian camp. In the mage's tent, they found a rare instrument used to communicate at a distance, a megascope. The crystals encrusted in its brass frame were still warm, meaning it had recently been used to conduct a conversation. The burning question was, with whom?
Isbel!
Yelled the Queen. The mage dutifully came closer.
This device. Could you activate it?
Yes, Your Grace. But are you sure?
I am. Get to work.
Isbel nodded, then began calibrating the magic device. Finally, something clicked. A light flickered on, and before Meve's eyes appeared the outline of a Nilfgaardian general.
Speak common, please. I know not your tongue.
Oh, forgive me. I thought I spoke to someone else. Good to see you in good health, Queen. Or ex-Queen, I suppose, would be the more apt title.
Instead of fretting so much over my title, give yours.
Of course. Where are my manners? Duke Adel Ebdahi, Grand Chancellor, Commander of Army Group East. I believe you've heard of me.
No. This is the first time I hear the name Ardel. Ardel what?
I see you've a poor mind for names. Perhaps you should ask your son. He knows me very well.
You whoreson.
Oh, what was I thinking? You're not on good terms, are you? Such a sad story. But don't worry, it'll soon be over.
Is that a threat?
No. A simple prediction. enough of this. Why use this megascope? What is it you want?
I wanted to see the man who's butchering Edirn. The man responsible for the deaths of thousands of women, elders and children.
Then your desire has been satisfied. It was I who gave the order to cleanse this land of unwanted elements. To prepare it for settlement. For...
Unwanted elements? Those are living folk you speak of.
If you were to look at this war in historical perspective, considering the wider geopolitical context, forget it. It's impossible for you to grasp. Farewell, Your Majesty. Or rather, till next time. For there will be a next time, I assure you.
A quiet fell over the tent. The Queen stepped outside, squinted her eyes against the glare of the burning fields, and swore to herself that when she did see Grand Chancellor Ardal ep Dahi again, he would be a whole head shorter.
All destroyed. As if nobody lifted a finger against the Nilfgaardians.
King surely ordered all his armies to return to Aldersburg. Took cover behind its walls.
I do not wish to dismay, but after what we saw at Rossburg...
Enough doomsaying, Gascon.
Coming across a small brook, Meve ordered her soldiers to replenish their water supplies. When they returned, it was with empty water skins and troubled expressions.
Milady, the water tastes of blood. Not like black pudding, mind, but rancid, filthy.
Meve had no choice but to march on. She gulped dryly and wondered how to interpret this strange event. An omen, perhaps? A warning from the gods? She soon learned the truth. Following the brook upstream, the Lyrians arrived at a small pool. Bobbing on its surface were dozens of corpses. A young woman caught Meve's gaze, her long hair spread delicately atop the water, wide-open eyes reflecting the sky, a fine nose peppered with freckles, and a gaping wound slashed across her throat.
We shall stop here,
The Queen said calmly.
and give these souls a proper burial. Reynard, send scouts. Tell them they are not to return until they ascertain what has happened here.
When the scouts returned a while later, they brought with them a barefooted peasant they'd found hiding in the woods. They claimed he hailed from Horton, a nearby village, the village whose inhabitants had been murdered.
Them black-clad wretches stormed the village, milady. The devil Frigif at the fore. Rounded us right up, took us down to the lake. Whole village, mind. They'd chop, chop, and splosh, splosh. 'Twas I alone gave him the slip.
Meve listened to the man's tale, then placed him in the care of her medics and ordered the Lyrians to break camp. She rode at the head of their column, Reynard at her side, her knuckles gripped white on the reins.
Do we know where this Frigef is stationed?
Our riders report he's pitched camp to the east.
Then let's pay him a call.
They killed all, like Rosberg. My lady, please, make them pay.
The Lyrians had no trouble finding Frigef's camp. It was the size of a sprawling town. Meve stopped her caravan and called for a council. The first to speak was Reynard.
Seems our scouts were both right and wrong, Your Grace. They did pinpoint General Frigef, the Butcher of Horton. Unfortunately, they underestimated his detachment. It is much larger and better armed than our own.
That changes nothing.
Meve said, forestalling all protest.
If I leave him unpunished, without so much as an attempt, I shall never be able to face my reflection again. We must attack.
Reynard bowed and passed the order to the Lyrians. Later that same day, Meve and Frigef's forces stood face to face on the field of battle.
Come out, Frigef! It's time you paid for your crimes! Whoresons.
The Lyrians won the day, despite their foes' distinct advantage. Historians later ascribed Meve's victory to her light troops' superior maneuverability in the difficult terrain compared to the plate-clad Nilfgaardians. But if you ask me, that wasn't it at all. A storm of fury had been quietly gathering in the Lyrians' hearts. A squall of rage stoked by the Nilfgaardians' unparalleled cruelty towards the conquered. And no one embodied this barbarism more perfectly than General Frigga. Meave's men were ready to sacrifice anything to see him punished. They dragged the defeated general before Meave. The Queen wished to learn why he'd ordered the execution of an entire village. How the Nilfgaardians could possibly justify such a crime.
2 weeks prior, I'd sent a detachment to Horton to procure feed. Captain Gaynor commanded it. While he was verifying their grain stores, they barricaded him in the barn and put it to flame.
The Queen listened to the general's story, her face a mask, betraying nothing.
Murdered. One man was murdered.
Frigga raised his eyes to Meave's. The Queen was surprised to see them wet with tears.
Yes, my lady. My son.
The general's simple words bore pain, grief, and a thirst for revenge that would never be slaked. The Queen had to decide what to do with Frigga. No doubt the general had earned punishment, the harshest possible at that. Yet, such a weighty personage could fetch a hefty ransom, and Meave's army desperately needed the gold.
My father taught me to respect the generals of my enemies. That even in captivity, their arms should not be taken from them. Their guards should greet them in salute.
The Queen said.
But you, Frigga, you are no general. Merely a cutthroat dressed as one. You shall die like the good folk of Horton. Quickly. Summarily.
Frigga received the Queen's decision with sang-froid. He neither struggled nor begged for mercy. He simply laid his head on the trunk. A short moment later, it rolled onto the ground to the Lyrians' deafening applause. As Meave passed the city of Harmelin, one of the peasants she'd saved from Nilfgaardian captivity requested an audience.
Be taking leave of you here, my lady. Folk from our parts lives in Harmelin. We'll manage. But, my lady, we thank you for taking pity on us, time and again. We've nothing, my lady, or nears enough. Black-clad bastards took all's worth taking. Except in this amulet. Been in my family for ages, kept us from harm. May it do the same for you.
Meave wanted to say she did not believe in peasant superstitions, but when she took the ivory pendant in hand, she felt a curious warmth from it. The peasant bowed, then joined the others as they trod off towards Harmelin.
We're safe behind these walls. At least for now we are.
Meave's Lyrians were traversing a wood when they heard the loud, drawn-out blast of a horn.
One of our scouts?
The Queen asked, clearly perplexed. She turned in her saddle to face Reynard, who shook his head.
Strange. Gascon, appoint a few of your strays. Ones who know how to blend in. Have them sniff out who blows that horn. And why.
The scouts returned a short while later with their report. Soldiers had pitched camp in a nearby meadow. They wore Edirnian uniforms, cut by sashes bearing a golden sun. They addressed their leader as Fulberson.
Know the name?
Rayla said.
Fulberson went over to the enemy first day of the war, took his whole division with him. Your Grace, a chance like this won't come again. Let's teach the traitors a lesson.
We must send a strong signal. One all the North will hear. From the Yaruga to the Dragon Mountains.
Announced the Queen.
Whoever collaborates with the invader shall pay with his head. Prepare to attack.
Rayla nodded, clearly pleased. The Lyrians surrounded the meadow marked by their scouts. Moments later, a flaming arrow pierced the sky, giving the signal to attack.
Is that Queen Meave? To arms! Mercy, Your Grace. We surrender!
The traitors, perhaps used to fighting unsuspecting foes, stood no chance against the determined Lyrian attack. At its conclusion, Meave personally knocked Fulberson off his mount, then tore off his visor. The face she saw evoked more sympathy than hatred. Fulberson was an old, sickly man, his skin pale and blemished. With great difficulty, he pulled himself up on his knees, then extended a shaky hand in pleading.
Your Grace, have mercy. The Nilfgaardians forced me to treason. They threatened torture.
Meve felt her soldiers' eyes on her. They awaited her decision. How would she treat this traitor? Would she really execute him as a warning to others?
You needn't fear torture anymore,
Said Meve.
Your execution shall be quick.
Fulberson made a last grasp at the Queen's foot, pleading for mercy. But she brushed him off with a firm gesture. Soon thereafter, he swung from a tree, hanged by the very black sash he draped over his armor.
A taxidermied unicorn. Strange. What are your orders, Your Grace? Shall we take it?
I've no notion what one could possibly do with such a thing. We ride on.
The Lyrians stood within 5 miles of Aldersburg, when the road, which until now they had traveled alone, suddenly filled with all manner of folk. Peasants, merchants, and wounded fighters in tattered uniforms. They trod solemnly in the opposite direction, their worldly possessions on their backs.
Aldersburg's fallen, milady.
Sighed one of the refugees with a forlorn shrug.
Outer walls breached. King still defends the old town, but black-clad goats are winning. You'd best turn back, before it's too late.
We've nowhere to turn to, good man,
the Queen said, then spurred on her horse.
Follow me!
The Queen galloped so fast the wind squeezed tears from her eyes, the Lyrian cavalry close at her heels. Hoofbeats thundered down the high road, and the crowd of refugees parted, making a path for the charging riders.
Faster! Faster!
Soon they set eye on Aldersburg. A red glow filled the horizon, the wind carried screams and the clanking of steel. The once proud city was quickly turning to dust in the Nilfgaardian sun. The Nilfgaardian force moved to block the Lyrians' way. Without slowing, Meve cut down the infantryman who tried to drag her from her saddle with a hook. Her head in a winged helmet fell to the ground, leaving a bloody track.
Lyrians! Attack!
Meve shouted.
Take no prisoners! Bloody hell. You shan't stop me. Not now.
The matter with a hamster, and your father smelt up elderberries.
Your Grace, all that was but their rear guard.
The Lyrians managed to scatter the Nilfgaardian battalion, one of many besieging Aldersburg. Their scouts brought before the Queen a prisoner freed from the invaders. Meve inquired about the situation in the city.
Turn the right slaughterhouse it has. The Imperials, they... King had the city cleared, my lady, but didn't budge himself. Holding out with his guard in Old Town, walls still standing there. Said he'd fight to the end, come what may.
Meve weighed her options. The situation looked dire. Demavend, to whom she had come for help, needed help himself. Nilfgaard enjoyed an overwhelming advantage. The small Lyrian detachment stood no chance of breaking the siege. But to retreat, surrender, that was not something Meve did.
The Nilfgaardians do not expect a relief force. Rayla, you know Aldersburg. Can you lead us by side streets to the Old Town, that we may avoid the largest part of the Nilfgaardian army?
The warrior nodded, and without waiting for any further orders, strode out in front of the party. Reynard followed her with his gaze, clearly troubled.
And what then, Your Majesty? We burst into the lion's den and...
And we pray the lion chokes. Follow me! Gods have mercy. And demons take it all!
Taking advantage of the confusion, Meve maneuvered her troops to the very walls of the Old Town. Spying Lyrian banners, the defenders suspected a trap. But when they noticed Black Railer among them, they immediately lowered the drawbridge. The old town was a maze of brothels and shady taverns. In normal times, students and other pleasure seekers prowled its dark alleys. Now, tired soldiers slumped in every corner, though the Lyrians' arrival clearly buoyed their spirits. The Fraternal Realms warriors clasped each other's hands and swapped tales. Even Eden's king, Demavend, made no secret of his pleasure at seeing these unexpected arrivals.
Me! Of all the besieged cities in all the world, you walk into mine. Come to the rescue, have you?
To be quite frank, I've come to be rescued.
Oh, yes. I've heard much of the events in Lyria. Disgraceful. Such betrayal. However, as you might have noticed, things are none too rosy here either.
Yes, that is hard to miss.
I thought we'd trade blows with the Blackclads. That it would be an even match. 2 weeks. That sufficed to annihilate the army I'd spent my whole lifetime building.
Your Majesty, I cannot say what fate will bring, if we shall reach this war's end alive. But I wish to say now that I admire you.
Oh?
You evacuated the city, yet refused to evacuate yourself. You fight to the bitter end, like a hero.
But of course. A king must lead by example, after all. Especially in war.
Reynard, that rumbling, you hear it? Studded boots on cobblestones. The Nilfgaardians. Prepare the men for battle.
Yes, Your Grace.
So, now that we're alone, what's really going on?
What? Did you not hear? I'm defending my capital, like a hero.
Demavend, please, don't feed me that drivel. We've known each other far too long. Why did you stay?
Meve. As meddling as you are beautiful. See that building? That one there.
The brothel? The Crimson Bodice?
Precisely. So, promise not to laugh. I'm a patron. A loyal one, in fact. One of the girls there, Demaretta. She's marvelous. Makes me feel young again.
A young fool, you mean? Demavend, there's a war on, and...
Allow me to finish. Demaretta became, well, with child. Exactly 9 months ago. Understand now?
She's entered confinement. Having contractions.
Since yesterday. You see, I cannot leave her like this. Can't have her moved. I must stay put until she gives birth.
And then what? Pray tell. Invite all of Nilfgaard to the christening?
No, my dear. There is a hidden tunnel deep beneath the city, leading far beyond its walls. Once the midwives cut the cord, we flee.
I understand. For one's child, one would do anything.
Odd, isn't it? Amusing, even. Midst of a war, my kingdom burning all around. And I'm happy.
In that case, I can only hope your offspring, unlike mine, will continue to.
Your Majesties, the Nilfgaardians are attacking.
Meve, we must hold out. A few hours, that's all.
I'll do what I can. Defend the king! We must stop them!
Meve! They're getting close! Devils take all, help me! We must hold on a bit longer.
No! A chase!
Ha ha ha! It worked! Now retreat to the tunnel!
With their forces combined, the rulers managed to hold the old town long enough for Demaretta to bear the king's offspring, a healthy, hardy boy. When the midwife slapped the infant, his scream carried above the roar of battle. Soon afterwards, the defenders abandoned the walls and left the city through a secret tunnel. The Nilfgaardians, furious that not one but 2 northern sovereigns were among the escapees, razed Aldersburg to the ground.
Thank you. If not for you, the devils would have devoured us.
I should say it was nothing. But the truth is, I need your aid.
Aid? But you see, my army is no more. I must pull back, regroup.
Pull back? Where to? The golden sun flies over your entire realm.
To Redania, to take shelter at the court there.
And then? Will you sit and watch the fool juggle apples as Nilfgaard parcels all Edirn out to its settlers?
Meve, one must know when to fold and when to double down. Nilfgaard has stretched the front. Winter will soon be here. Let the costs claw away at them. A year, 2, then we strike. And we shall prove the Empire is a colossus with feet of clay.
Fine. Do as you see fit.
And you?
I can't live like that.
So what shall you do instead?
Fight on. Until I win. Or the black-clad curs tear me apart.
Gods, such pity I have for your husband. The poor man must have had a rough go of it.
He seemed content with his life while it lasted. Yet I'm serious, Demavend, in my request. You truly won't aid me. Provide nothing at all.
I will tell my men whoever so wishes can join your party and fight on. But please, curb your excitement. They are tired. Few will choose the path of greater resistance. But... Are you familiar with the saying, when at wit's end, a dwarf's your friend?
Yes, it and many others. Yet as much as I appreciate folk wisdom, I prefer facts to philosophy at the moment. Preferably facts relevant to my situation.
How about this? Mahakam is but a week's ride from here. And there you'll find thousands of dwarves armed to the teeth. Enough to turn the tides of this war, I venture.
Yes, they could. If not for another fact. That the dwarves have always been famously indifferent to strife between humans. They'll never come to my aid. I doubt they'll even let me into their land.
Unless you show them this. The leaden ring. A token of amity given to me by the Elder-in-Chief. That's not to say they'll welcome you with open arms. But they will hear you out. And that is something.
Dwarven infantry I'd make good use of. I shall do as you say. Or at least try.
Good. And to ease your journey somewhat, I'll give you as your guide the best man, or rather woman, for the task. Rayla!
Yes, Your Grace?
You have been to Mahakam with me many times. You know their paths. Take Queen Meve and her party there.
'Twould be an honor, Your Majesty.
I'll send messengers ahead that the dwarfs may expect your arrival. Until then, good luck, Meve. And may we one day waltz upon the grave of our foe, Emperor Emir.
May it be so. Just as long as I get to lead.
Ah, of course. Farewell, Queen.
Meve left Aldersburg in ill spirits. Rather than provide the help she had hoped for, Demavend had merely sent her on to Mahakam. Her way west was lit first by the glow of a burning city, then by the smouldering remains of charred villages by the roadside. It was clear the war against Nilfgaard had taken a bitter turn. Each stranger was now treated as an enemy, and the customarily hospitable Edirnians slammed their doors at anyone's approach. The party's morale was somber as well, and did not even improve with the first sight of mountains looming in the distance. Wandering among the ashes, Meve entered the dwarves' domain.